Hello and welcome to the Amortization Project presentation. My goal to do here tonight is just to give you a brief explanation of how to go about this project. For those of you who don't have a lot of experience in Excel, this will kind of break down the formulas to help you understand the process of getting through it. I think Excel can help anybody in any line of work, whether it's just databasing information or going through some of the mathematical factors that it can really help you with, because what you'll see here is it can really streamline a project. Now, if you were trying to do an amortization table where you had to type in all of the numbers, you can imagine that that would take you all night. What this is meant to show you is what Excel can do for you, where you can just set it up, set the formulas up, and just really streamline any kind of project, especially when it comes to finance. If you're in finance, Excel is probably your right hand, like it is for me. So, but even if you're not in finance, I think that it can be a huge help. I know that just personally, my wife and I use Excel for personal budgeting and for planning things out. We use it for a lot of different things, and I think that if you're not familiar with it, hopefully this gives you kind of an introduction. And I'm always here to help. So if you do run into any problems or you just need something broken down a little bit more, I have no problem walking you through that, because I think long term, if you take anything away from this class, I think this would be a very good thing to take away from this class, to find out, to get a little bit of an introduction into Excel. So here we go. So step one, we need to choose a house. I just threw a picture on here, but what I want you to do, and you could spend as little or as much time as you want on it, but look for a house somewhere in a price range. It can be as expensive as you want, as cheap as you want. Just have fun with it. Like I said, you don't need to send me a picture or anything, but it's just more of an idea of maybe this is the typical house that you would look at, or your next house, if you want to look at it like that. But that's just kind of the fun start. But spend as much time or as little time as you want with this. So first, what we're going to do is we were going to take a look at the factors that we're going to need to have in order to make this amortization table work. And you can see first, we'll just start from the left-hand column A, and move our way to the right. So column A, we're just looking at the factors. So what are the main factors that we need to know? We need to know what is the home price. So that is going to be your determination at what price home do you want. Loan maturity, in this case I use 30 years. You can use 15 years, you can use 20 years. It's all up to you, but I just use 30 for being the traditional mortgage of today. The interest rate, I just threw it out there, but what I actually want you guys to do is to go online and see what are interest rates today. Just go and search on Yahoo or Google, and just say, if I was going to get a 30-year mortgage at this price, what interest rate could I get today? So it kind of adds a current element to the project. And then the future value is going to be zero, because what we want to do is, by the end of 30 years, we want it to be for our loan to be $0. So what we need to do is to find the payment in order to make that work, in order that at that interest rate, at that amount of years, at that price, that over that 30 years, that we can pay it off, principal and interest. So what we have to do is we have to use a time value of money calculator, and after week 2, you should all be fairly familiar with this time value of money calculator that we've been using. So what are our factors going to be? First, our home price is going to be negative $200,000, because we're putting that money in. So that's going to be a debit, or a decrease in current assets, because we're putting it towards the loan. Our loan maturity is actually going to be 360, because with mortgages, they are a monthly amortization. So we need to times 30 years by 12 months. So that's going to give us 360 periods. Now this is important, that if you chose a 15-year mortgage, well, it'll be half of that. So make sure that when you choose your loan maturity, that you take whatever the years are and you multiply that by 12. Now with the interest rate, we're gonna divide that by 12, because it's 3.5% per year. So what is that per month, since this is a monthly amortization? So we look at how many periods, the per period interest rate is going to be the annual rate divided by 12. And then the future value is still 0, and then we're going to find our payment. So as you see here, we pulled out our fancy dancy time value of money calculator. We put our inputs in. We had that negative 200,000 present value, or what is that value today. Our rate is 0.2917. That's that 3.5 divided by 12. Our periods are 360. That's 30 years times 12. And our future value is still 0. So our payment is going to be $898.13. So that'll be our monthly payment to cover principal and interest on a 30-year mortgage. Now that we know what the payment is, we can enter it in on our spreadsheet in Excel. So now that we have all that information, we know what the home price is, we know what the loan maturity is going to be 360 periods, our interest rate is going to be 0.2917%, our future value is going to be 0, and our payment is going to be $898.13. So now that we know that, we can set up our columns for the table, as you can see at the bottom here in row 11. We have the period, so we're starting at 1, and the periods are going to go all the way to 360. The loan value in period 1 starts at $200,000 because that was our that's what we started the loan at. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the steps to fill in the rest of the columns. So here's our first slide that has to do with formulas. So now that we have the loan value, we have the other factors that go into it, we can start our formula building. And all the formulas are never going to have to do with more than just 2 cells. So I think that's going to keep it fairly straightforward, and it's going to be multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So if you are unfamiliar with Excel, formulas will always start with an equal sign. Always begin with an equal sign, and you can see that in the cell. Then what we're going to do is we're going to click in the loan value cell. So you're going to hit equals, click in B12. Now we're going to use a multiplication symbol. That multiplication symbol is going to be that star button or shift 8. And then what we're going to do is click into the C6 cell, or our monthly interest rate. So what we're trying to do here, and what we're building, is our loan value times the interest rate, because we need to add that interest rate to the loan value, because that's what we're paying back the bank. For the bank loaning us the $200,000, we need to pay them interest. So this is going to be what they're making off of it for that payment. So what you can also see here, which is another important sign, is the dollar sign that you see before the C and before the 6. Now we're putting it in this particular cell because when we look at that interest rate, we aren't going to move that cell. That cell is going to stay there no matter what, and we want to lock that cell in. So by putting the dollar sign before the C, before the column, and a dollar sign before the 6 or the row. So by doing that, we locked in that cell. It will never move from cell C6. So formula here equals B12, or our loan value, times C6, or our monthly interest rate, and we make sure we put those dollar signs in there to lock in that cell value. The next cell is after interest value, and really it is exactly what it is. It's after you add the interest, what is the new loan value? So really all we're doing here is we're adding the loan value plus the interest value. So you can see that our formula from before, when we multiplied our loan value by the interest rate, that came out to $583. So when we add that to the $200,000, we're going to have $200,583. That will be your new value after that first period of interest being added to it. And then our final column is just simply going to be the payment. What are we paying down? So we want that payment to cover both principal and interest. So you will see that in this case, we're just going to have this cell equal our payment, or equal cell C8 But remember, we're going to use those dollar signs because that cell placement is not going to change. We're going to always want to keep that cell in C8. No matter what we do to that column, we always want it referring to that. So what we'll see next is we're gonna subtract this payment minus the after interest value. And the reason why that doesn't change is because we found in our time value of money calculation that this is going to be the payment throughout the entire amortization process. And like I said just on the last slide, to get our new loan value or our period 2 value, we need to subtract the after interest value or cell D12, and then we need to subtract the payment, which is in cell E12. So what this is going to create is our new loan value. So we added interest to the original value, and then we paid principal and interest to create a new loan value for start of period 2. And now is when things really start to get moving, because what we can do is the reason we put those formulas in is so that we can replicate that formula over and over and over again all the way down for our 360 periods. Because if we had to type in that formula every time interest was added or every time a payment went through, that would take you all night. But with this process, what we can do is we can replicate that formula over and over and over again. So as you can see by the first graphic on top, if you select the interest cell, or the cell that has the interest formula, and you go to the bottom right corner, a cross is going to appear. Your cursor is going to turn into a cross, and what you'll do is you just click once and drag it down just one slide, as you'll see in the next. Just drag it down one row like you'll see in the next picture there. So we grabbed it in that bottom right corner and we dragged it down one cell. And what this is going to do is replicate that formula that was above it. Now we're going to do the same thing for after interest value. We're going to select the cell. We're going to go down to the bottom right corner and drag it down just one spot. And that's going to replicate that formula. And again, for the payment, we're going to pull that right hand corner down one more time. So when we look at it in the end, we'll have for period 1 and period 2 all set all the way across. Now, just giving you a little background on what exactly we did in the former slides was, for that interest, we were multiplying that loan value times that interest rate, and we locked that interest rate cell. But at the same time, we want the new value times that interest rate. So when we drag that cell down, it takes what was period 1's loan value, and now it multiplies that interest rate times period 2's loan value. So as you can see, when we go down to the third graphic, that in the first interest row, it was 583, which was the interest rate times $200,000. But now we're taking the interest rate times $199,685. So our interest actually lowered $1 to $582. So now we're taking period 2's loan value and we're adding that to 582, and that creates 200,268. So our after interest value is continuing to decrease, and our payment is going to stay the same. So you can see in an amortization, you start paying more interest and less principal, but as you go on, that interest is going to continue to fall, and you're going to continue to pay more principal. So that's how you're really going to pay down that debt. And we finally made it to the fun part. So now what we can do is we can select from cell A13 to cell E13. And this is just how mine is set up. Yours may have, be set up a little bit different when it comes to rows. So don't use my rows and columns if they don't quite match yours. But really what you're doing is you're stretching and highlighting from the period column all the way to the payment column. And again, you're going to grab that right hand corner and you're going to drag that down. and you're going to keep dragging it down, and you're going to see your screen start to go. You're going to go all the way down to 360. Now this is if you have a 30-year mortgage. If you do a 15-year mortgage, it's only going to be half that much, or 180 rows. But if you do have a 30-year, you're going to bring it all the way down to 360. So we'll just, one last review. We're going to select from the period column all the way over to the payment column. We're going to grab that bottom right hand corner, and we're just going to drag it all the way down till we hit 360 for that 30-year mortgage. So as you can see here, we dragged it all the way down, and then by the end, and we can't see our column headers, but we have 360 periods. Our last loan value is $898, and our interest is $3 to equal 901. And unfortunately, our time value of money calculator was a couple of cents off, but that's a rounding thing. That will probably end up with about a little over $2 left over in the end. But I think the bank can, you guys can work that out to pay that extra dollars. But it should have come out like this, where all the columns continued. And what you can do is, as you go along, is you can see how that interest cost continues to go down. And as you can see in the last payment is all the way down to $3, where in that first payment it was almost $600 of your $900 payment. You're paying $898 as your payment, and at the beginning $583 of that was going just to just as interest, and only the remaining $200 was going to principal. So it shows you in mortgages how at the beginning you're paying very little off the top of your mortgage, and then not till about halfway through do you really start paying more towards that principal than you are towards those interest rates. Now that concludes this, because once you've have your whole table aligned, you are all set. So hopefully this presentation helped you get through it without spending too much time trying to figure out the formulas and things like that. Go through this presentation as many times as you would need to, because really what I wanted to do was just you can just change some of the inputs in there, but just getting comfortable with the idea of Excel and how you can use formulas to really speed up processes when it comes to any type of thing. And like I said, I use personal budgeting as a example, because I think that's something we could all use, where if you change a certain factor, you don't have to change it in every cell. If you use formulas, you can kind of work with those. So in this, we kind of use some pretty straightforward basic formulas, just addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. But those are so powerful when you think of all the things you can do with that as you go along. So if you do have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. We can walk through anything you need. We do have those chat room hours on Tuesdays. Otherwise, if you just want, just email me. We can find a time that we can get in the chat room and work through this quickly. Otherwise, just email me and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. So have a great day, guys, and enjoy your house shopping if you decide to do that. All right, thanks.